Australia has reported its biggest one-day rise in COVID-19 infections in more than 2 months, with Victoria detecting 75 new cases. That number alone is enough to make it the country's biggest daily outbreak since the 11th of April. At the same time, Prime Minister Scott Morrison has called on states to continue easing restrictions, insisting the country's economy must be revived.
I've been very consistent in advocating to all the premiers and chief ministers, regardless of what side of politics they come from, that it's important to get these borders open. While we have a serious outbreak in Victoria, I'll be speaking to the Premier again later today. We will put every resource that we need to deal with that outbreak in Victoria.
Despite Mr Morrison's assurance, officials in Victoria are considering reimposing safe distancing restrictions. Roger Maynard has more.
What's a real concern at the moment is that the latest cases have been identified as community transmissions in about 10 particular Melbourne suburbs. The State Health Minister said he was increasingly worried by the rising number, and while the figures were quite low by global standards, the fear is that the infections could lead to the situation getting out of control quite quickly. And that's what Australia is trying to avoid at all costs. It doesn't want those infections to spread to other states. The latest developments have created a new sense of urgency, if you like, and the Chief Health Officer there is saying nothing was off the table in terms of getting the current outbreak under control.
We absolutely want people to get the message that if they've got symptoms, they shouldn't be going and visiting other people. They shouldn't be going out to any other setting, including work, because that's where we're seeing transmission at the moment. I think there's still an opportunity for that to turn around, but if it isn't, absolutely public health directions, a change in the law is something that we have to consider, because we have to do whatever is required to turn this around.
In the meantime, the Health Department is organising thousands of tests and hoping that the people who live in these hotspots will get the message and not gather in large groups and to keep a safe distance away from each other. The Prime Minister wants to get all the state borders open as soon as possible so that business can get back to normal, and particularly in Queensland, where the state relies heavily on tourism, both domestic and international. And in the absence of international tourism, it's hoping that more Australians will go to Queensland during the winter period. But having said that, given the increased number of infections in Victoria, there will also be a strong lobby to stop those borders reopening. So there's strong pressure on the Queensland Premier not to open those borders, not to open the Queensland-New South Wales border. She's due to make a decision on that tomorrow, and it could well be that she decides to delay that decision, the decision to open the borders, for days or possibly weeks to come.